Welcome to Lee Anderson's Real World, and today I'm joined by my brilliant guest, which is Mario Trabucco Della Torretta. He's an Italian historian, well, Sicilian, sorry about that, Mario. And back has left in the corner, we've got Stephen Pound. He's back for about the 15th time. He's a secret Tory, he won't admit it, but we're going to get down to some nitty-gritty today. Mario, in the news this week, Elgin Marbles, the Greek Prime Minister wants them to go back to Athens. Should they go?
No, definitely not. They should remain, and I think Rishi Sunak has been quite right in asserting our legitimate right to own these sculptures that were legitimately acquired by Lord Elgin from the Ottoman Empire, which was the legitimate and internationally recognized power that owned the city of Athens back in 1801.
Okay, so Mario, these are what we class as an ancient artifact. So I'm going to go over to another ancient artifact, which is Stephen Pound. He's our lefty in the corner. Now, Stephen, 20 odd years ago, when he was an MP, did you sign some sort of motion, an EDM to?
I did. Listen, as far as I'm concerned, I mean, there's better ways of getting your rocks off than panicking, going on and getting obsessive about the Parthenon sculptures. As far as I'm concerned, send them back. We all know what they look like. The problem is that when they were on the Parthenon and the frieze there, as you know, the Turks on the Ottoman Empire used them as target practice, and so they shot great lumps of them off. And the worry is, if we send them back to Athens, one of the most polluted cities on God's green earth, would they actually still be there in good nick?
What?
To be honest, I don't think it matters.
To answer the question there, because if we send them back, they're going to get damaged, they're going to be polluted. Surely, Mario, we should keep them in where they're safe.
I think this is besides the point, because Athens nowadays is not Athens as it was in 1983, and definitely not as it was in 1801. It's perfectly safe to have them in Athens, but it's not the point. The point is we own them legally, we got them legally when they were treating them as rubbish. And they were just scattered all over the place in the Acropolis. Some of them, they were re-employed and in poor constructions of all the houses that were around the temple back then. And then the Lord Elgin basically said, you know what, they are meaningful to me. Can I have them? And they said, yes, by all means, you're welcome to them.
So surely, Stephen, that's a sensible thing to do. You're seeing ancient artifacts being mistreated, left on the floor to be damaged. Lord Elgin's seen them, he's bought them back, he's protected them, they're in a museum for the whole world to see.
I'm not entirely convinced that Lord Elgin's motives were entirely philanthropic. It also must have been an incredible job to actually ship them back. Imagine that in the days of sale. But look, the reality is that, Mario makes a very important point. They were bought, but who were they bought from? This is not like the Benin bronzes and the various other things, like the sack of Peking where the Brits went over there and grabbed everything left, right and centre. This was not looting. This was actually a legal purchase. But I cannot understand why we're picking a fight with Mitsotakis and the Greek Premier. We need all the friends we can get, Lee. Since your lot got us out of Europe, we need some friends, mate.
Who's picking the fight here?
I think it's the Prime Minister, the Greek Prime Minister, that is picking the fight, because for us, this is a settled matter. We have thoroughly investigated the question. Two of the highest tribunals in this country, Select Committee of Parliament and Parliament itself, have already judged on the legality of the acquisition. And for us, that's the way it is. It's history. 30 years later than the facts, the Greeks come, constitute themselves into a nation and say, you know what was happened 30 years ago, I didn't like, therefore I want them back. And this started ever since, and especially got a big kick when Melina Mercouri, the Greek cultural secretary, in 1983, called UNESCO and say, I want to lodge a request, a formal claim.
Stephen, where does this stop? Because it's the marbles today, and then tomorrow it'll be something else, then it'll be museums in a different country, maybe the Hermitage Museum in St. Petersburg, who's probably got artifacts from different countries all over the world.
Well, I think the important thing is, Lee, I know they speak of little else in Ashfield. You cannot walk down a street or go to a pub in Ashfield without people bending their ear about the Parthenon marbles or the Elgin. This is almost an irrelevance. But as far as I'm concerned, the Parthenon marbles, the Parthenon sculptures are a slightly unique artifact. There's nothing quite like them. This is not like, as I said, the Benin bronzes and some of the other things. As far as I'm concerned, why on earth are we beating ourselves up about this? We can have a perfectly good replica in the British Museum that is indistinguishable indistinguishable from the present one. Let them go. Let's have a few friends. Let's try to make friends with people in Europe instead of actually constantly looking for more arguments and more ways to have a
Stephen
fight.
talks about replicas.
No, I definitely disagree for two reasons. One is the replica argument falls on this question. If a replica is good enough for us, it's good enough for the Greeks as well, surely.
Yeah.
So the other bit is you put a replica to on the building itself, basically.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what you can only do with a replica, because even if we give the Parthenon marbles that we have to the Greeks, they're going to put them into another museum.
Yeah.
They are not going to reunite the fragments with the monument. This is something that they could do with a replica. And actually, we've already provided the replicas to them. Historically, the British Museum has given them replicas all over the 19th century. So it's something that basically cannot work this way. But also, I disagree on the fact that they are not meaningful to us. Yeah. They are part of our history. We say that our civilization is founded on the values of classical antiquity. So these are basically artifacts that have shaped the way we are. Keats has written about them. Mary Shelley has wrote Frankenstein inspired by their state. Benjamin West, Lord Byron, absolutely. But Lord Byron was coming from a completely different point of view.
Yeah, it was. Stephen, replicas. I would love to have a replica of you to bring back to Ashfield and knock on a few doors. Do you think that could be arranged?
But don't forget, Lord Byron actually died when he went out to fight for Greek independence. He died. But look, as far as I'm concerned, the Parthenon sculptures mean a lot to the Greeks. They mean a hell of a lot to the Greeks. I think they mean more to the Greeks than they mean to us in this country. As far as I'm concerned, let them have it. It means a great deal to them. It doesn't. It's not the end of the world for us. We have got the British Museum. 10% of the artifacts in the British Museum can be shown. 90% of them are actually in cellars and in basements. There's just so much stuff there. There's plenty of it.
In every museum.
Yeah.
Every museum has a first tier kind of collection that is worthy of displaying. For example, I studied ancient marketways.
Yeah.
They have 435 of them, and yet they are displaying only 3. Because there's no point in displaying copy after copy after copy after copy of the same thing. So you just selected best pieces, the ones that are most illustrative, and for public viewership, you put them in a.
But I guess what, Stephen? Now it's in the news, and we've got two nations sort of having a bit of a bicker about the Elgin Marbles, then more people will actually go and look at the Elgin Marbles and see what all the fuss is about.
Well, I know you're a bit of an aesthete when it comes to this. I know you're very often seen wandering around the art galleries and the museums in London, and this probably appeals to you. But look, what the argument between Rishi Sunak and Mitsotakis is that apparently there's an agreement they wouldn't raise this issue at the negotiations. Yeah. Mitsotakis then throws it in, maybe for domestic purposes, I don't know. But all I know is, are we going to keep on beating ourselves up about a lump of stone?
Yeah, I don't think you'll find me wandering around the art galleries in London, Stephen.
It's a lovely image, though, isn't it?
I mean, I do wander around London, but not around the art galleries.
Different sorts of galleries.
Final word, Mario, 30 seconds.
It's not about just a lump of stone. It's about the rule of law. It's about the sovereignty of parliament. If something has been obtained as the fruit of a legal acquisition in legal circumstances, and parliament put a stamp on it, frankly, we should defend this.
Yeah. Well, that's it. We've had a long discussion about marbles, quite clearly. Stephen's not lost his quite yet, but they're rattling about somewhere. But look, do not go away.